it's going to fully kick. Oh, there we go. I think we're on.
Hey, you. Come on, sit down. You're sitting at the grown-ups table. I'm your host, Jesse Pimpinella. And as always, my partner in crime,
John Jacobs.
Thank you so much. We are so excited to have everybody on the show today because it's a big one. We talked about it last Wednesday. And in any time anybody can do an interview or speak to anybody who's a part of such an amazing world or universe, dare I say, is such a huge honor.
It is.
It is definitely. For those who don't know what we're talking about, some of you guys, if you didn't pay attention to last week's show, you better listen now because we got. And can I bring them out, or do you want to bring them out, John?
Sorry, I was sharing the link on.
No, it's okay. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, me too. Let's go ahead and bring him out. All right. There's no reason to delay any further.
Let's not delay it. Everybody was going crazy last week on last week's show. Please give it up, everybody, for Mr. Eric Walker.
Woo!
Yeah!
Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Yeah.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be at the grown-ups table.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for doing the show for us today. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
Oh man,
it's
has been
my pleasure, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this has been such a like I said, the honor's all ours. I mean, the fact that you got to work in that universe. I mean, is there moments where you kind of just look at yourself and you be like, "Yeah, I was Mace," like you know what I mean? Yeah, I just like that.
In my Mace character, who's like a cross between Han Solo and Luke. I look like Luke Skywalker, but he kind of had the attitude of Han Solo. I would probably say, "Yeah, I'm Mace. Yeah, of course. Yeah."
Yeah, but that's incredible.
They're animals.
Oh man! Now let's kind of build a background. Let's talk pre-Ewok era. Eric Walker. So, how'd you get your start in acting?
It was always my mother's dream to, see her kids get into show business, to do commercials or stuff like that. And she was always floating with the idea to kind of get my dad to get us in show business. And unfortunately, she passed away. And shortly after that, I did a commercial. Because my mom, that was her dream. I said, "Dad, please let me do it." And I was playing Pop Warner football, tackle football, not the tag kind. The actual and I was like 6 years old, and I was on a farm team here in the San Fernando Valley, called the Reseda Rams. And the box was looking for a football squad to do a commercial. So they came out and they met us, and they picked our team to be the football team in the box commercial. This is before they all the stuff with Jack or whatever. So I was chosen, and they didn't have to hire a soccer team. They had us play soccer players too in another commercial, but that's a long story. I did a Jack in the Box commercial. I said, "Wow, this is great." I got paid like $400. This is back in 1977, guys. I got paid $400, and I got to eat Jack in the Box food for free.
Nice.
This is a great industry. I want to do this. Of course, I'm a 7-year-old kid, and but my dad was not sure that I wasn't just talking because I wanted to eat Jack in the Box food. So he made me pester him. I pestered him for like 2 or 3 years, and then he realized I was serious. And my sister went to school with one of the original Pippi Longstocking.
Oh,
and,
wow!
So she asked her if she knew some agents or how to get in show business, and she gave her mother gave my sister a couple who's older. My sister's like 5 or 6 years older, almost an adult at this point. So she called a couple agents, and she said, "Okay, bring your father bring your brother in, and we'll interview him." And so the first agent she called was Beverly Hecht, and I went and met with her, and she liked me, and she signed me. So that's how I started
nice.
Around the 80s, and I went on a couple auditions, and she got kind of terrible feedback, and so she had me go do studying. So I went to some acting workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And after studying acting for a year or so, I got my first job, which was a play, and that play was a comedy called Mrs. Jerry and Mr. X. It was a comedy, and it starred. It was directed by Dina Dietrich, who was the Mother Nature. She did Don't Fool with Mother Nature commercial. That she directed with Beverly Sanders and Patricia Murray, who is Don Murray's daughter, and also Dom DeLuise and a whole bunch of other actors.
Oh, wow.
Pretty big actors were in it. So
That
was my first stage play, and then after that, I started doing bit parts. I started getting small roles. Like I did a bit part on Webster. Remember the TV show Webster?
Yeah.
With Emmanuel Lewis. I was on the third episode of that one. I did a movie of the week called Having It All with Diane Cannon, and where she had a husband on the East Coast and West Coast, and I was her nephew, Diane Cannon's nephew. And then I just started getting bit roles, and then one day my agent called me and said, "There's an after-school special. It's only like an hour long, and they just want to meet with you, and you don't have to read or anything. They just want to see if you're the right look for the part. And it's this kind of a tough kid." And that was the only description. They said, wear clothes like you're a tough kid or a bully, and you're not going to have to read, and it's a 1 hour after school special. Did not know it was George Lucas.
Wow.
Didn't know it was for the Ewok movie.
Whoa.
Wow.
Went and read for it, and so then when I got there, they liked me. The director, John Cordy, and Tom Smith liked me enough. They said, we said you didn't have to read, and we just wanted to meet with you to see if you're the right look for the part, but we really like your look. Do you mind if we give you some the script, the way they call them sides, and go and study it with your father, and because the executive producer, we need to get it on tape to show the executive producer. Of course, they didn't tell me it was George Lucas. So I said, sure, I'll do that. Not a problem. I'll go and study, but I'll do it on one condition: as long as you let me do my monologue that I've been preparing an actor. Because at that time, I was studying acting. I was very serious about my craft, and I had monologues prepared so I could do them on a moment's notice. And long story short, the producer forgot to hit the record button when I was in the script, but he recorded my monologue that George Lucas saw. And he saw that monologue, and he immediately picked me. And that monologue is it's on YouTube right now. I put my original audition on YouTube, so you could go watch it, see why George Lucas picked me.
That's awesome.
That's incredible, because
that is incredible.
I mean, that goes to show like what happens when you bet on yourself. Yeah, I mean, like you knew in your heart that monologue, you knew your craft very well. You wanted to put yourself out there, and you did, and it paid off big. I mean, you are in George Lucas's, scope, and wow, that is so incredible.
It is.
When did you get word? Sorry.
Go ahead. I think I know what you're going to ask, but sorry for interrupting you.
No.
But, they said we'll be in touch. About a week or two later, they called me to do a screen test up in San Rafael, and I flew up there, and they filmed myself and Aubrey Miller, who played Sindel. They filmed us the entire day doing a screen test. And at the end of the day, they went and met in another office, I guess showed George Lucas some of the videos. And they came out and said, congratulations, you got the part, after we did the screen test.
Wow. It's incredible.
It was very fast.
It is. Now, how did you, we'll definitely go into our next segment. How did you prepare to become Mace now? Like, did they have you do anything special? Like, they train you, work you out, or what was from here to getting on screen? What was that journey?
Well, from the moment that I auditioned to the point where we were filming, it was about a month only. A month later, we were filming.
Wow.
After I got a part. We started filming. The first day of filming was June 11th, 1984. and I auditioned like in the beginning of May. So it was really quick.
Whew.
But I was I've always had this. I kind of runs in the family. Obesity runs in my family. Everybody on my mother's side, not my dad's side, but my mom's side, all my uncles are big and fat. And I was a chubby kid, and they said, you weigh too much. Can you lose 35 pounds? So I said, yes, I'll do it. And I trained, and I lost 30 pounds, and I was very nervous because I only lost 30 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But they were ecstatic that I lost 30 pounds a month. And as far as training's concerned, that character had a lot of physical abilities, Mace, and he was doing a lot of. So I did all my stunts, including the underwater scene. There's only one stunt I didn't do where I landed into the Gorak's cage. I didn't do that. I did part of it, which they didn't use. They shot me up in the air, and I did part of the stunt. They shot me 15 feet in the air.
Yeah.
They didn't use it. They used the part where the guy crashes into the cage. But I studied. They hired a trainer. Since you asked about it, they hired a trainer for me. His name is Bob Yerkes, and he used to do all the Circuits of the Stars back then.
Oh, okay.
So I trained with him, and that was it. I did train a lot of training. Like I said, I lost 30 pounds to do that role.
Yeah. Wow. So I have a question specifically about you said that you did all of your own stunts minus that one scene with the cage and including the underwater. So I got to ask, like, understanding how, film and television shot, did it take all day with you in the water to get those shots, or was it really quick?
No, that scene, that underwater, that particular shot was done. That was the last day of filming. And that was in a backyard, not too far from Skywalker Ranch. They rented a house that had a pool, and so we shot in the backyard in a pool. And and what they did was, so I could have something to pound on, like I couldn't get out of the water. They brought this big, large, probably I want to say a plexiglass. It was probably at least 12 inches, maybe I'm exaggerating. Either 6 or 12 inches thick. It was pretty thick, and I was pounding on it. So I had to swim underneath it and pound on it. That scene, by the way, was directed by George Lucas, where I'm pounding on the water.
Oh, there we go.
He was there shooting that scene.
Okay. Did he just decide, hey, since I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and direct this and shoot this and all, since he was there?
He did a whole week's worth of reshoot. He didn't tell anybody about this at the time, and he denied it. But because I've been saying for years that he directed the whole week of filming. Now he admits it. In fact, it's in the new book, the new Star Wars Archives book. There's a picture of him directing me, actually, in one of the scenes.
That is cool.
Because he also directed the scene where I stick my hand into the tree monster.
Yes.
That scene as well.
Okay.
And there's a picture of him directing me in that scene in that book. So he's now allowing everybody to admit that he did it, because at that time he was having all those issues with the Directors Guild. I don't know if you guys knew about in the industry. So he wasn't he was directing. He had his hands on this. This was not the Star Wars Holiday Special, although the first name of this movie was called the Ewok Holiday Movie, which people don't know.
I didn't know.
And originally it was supposed to be on. It was supposed to be on during Christmas. Originally.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, as far as I understand, since you brought up the name of the film, the original name, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm wrong, I know you're going to correct me, but it was Ewok Adventure, but overseas they called it Caravan of Courage, and then that's how it somehow just overall got adapted to Caravan of Courage. Is that correct?
Yeah, the theatrical release was called Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure. That was the theatrical. That's the name that George Lucas came up with. So
okay.
He picked that name. That's his name. And,
gotcha.
Okay.
Originally, it wasn't going to be released overseas. It was just supposed to be for the United States and Canada. But the movie went over budget by like $1 million or a couple $1 million. So George went ahead and let 20th Century Fox release it overseas to recoup because it went over budget. Oh, now you guys are getting inside stuff. Okay.
Hey, no, this like Eric, look, we could talk all day about what everybody knows and sees about the films, but hearing about production and direction and like finance and stuff, like that's the stuff I just love to hear about, because that's the stuff nobody really hears about unless they go looking for it. So, I mean, that's fantastic. I absolutely love this. This is great.
Yeah, and the movie did very well. It was the number 3 movie in France that year. It was like in the top 10 in the UK. In Asia, it was like the number 1 movie that year. It was a big movie.
That's great that it had
$100 million.
Wow.
Or something like that when I was.
That's fantastic that it had such success overseas. That's great. And I mean, to your point, that definitely helps recoup some of that over budget cost too. So, I mean, that's great to hear. So I want to know from you, and I'm sure other people want to know too, because obviously when you shoot a film, and I mean, I've never done any type of big professional production. Both of my films are very local, small, low budget type thing. But there's always those things that happen on set that you know, maybe something happens and it's just you're not feeling it. But then maybe something else happens and you're like, this was one of my favorite experiences. So on the set of Caravan, what would you say your best memory or what you liked the most about being on that set was?
Well, I mean, I like the set. We're in this redwood forest, and you don't feel. And when you put on that costume, and other Star Wars actors will say this. Even recently, I've heard a couple Star Wars people on the Mandalorian bring this up. When you put that costume on, you really feel it's easier to get in character because you're wearing all these gadgets. You're wearing that flight suit. You know, Mace had a lot of accessories. If they ever did a Mace action figure, his belt would have a knife on it. It would have a fire starter. Remember, he started the fire with the laser.
Yeah.
It would, on the back of his jacket, he had a gun holder for his blaster. He had a really nice blaster as well. That was his. He had an axe that he threw. Remember, he had the axe he threw, and then Chukatron threw it as well, and hit right dead center. So the accessories would be incredible. And I know back at the time when we were up there for the second movie, I had heard that Kenner approached George to do action figures of Mace and everybody, and he said no. He stopped them. At the point they wanted to do action figures.
Wow, that's a bummer. Just pure speculation. Why do you think he would say no?
I think that George, these Ewok movies were really kind of like a daughter's showing. He did them for his daughter, like a love thing, and his daughter really loved the Ewoks. His daughter Amanda Lucas, who he adopted, and she came to the set too. Also, she came to the set. Linda Ronstadt, who he was dating at the time, came to the set a couple times. And she really thought Ewoks were real at that time. I mean, even when she came to the set, they asked all the actors to put their heads on. So she wouldn't see them not in costume.
Yeah.
So, and at the time, George's assistant, who was taking care of Amanda, used to tell stories. They used to tell crazy stories about the Ewoks, and that's how he came up with the Ewok movie. It was George's assistant and her nanny, Bob Perot, who wrote it with George.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. I like hearing that origin. That's great. And I mean, obviously in the story, everything is about family. It's about, you know, the strength of the family, and it's about what happens when that's broken. How does it come back together? How do they overcome? And I really like Mace's character development and story arc. You know, he starts out as kind of the troubled teenage kid. Then he's thrust into this adult role to take care of his sister. Then he has to go save his parents. And then he has to get over his bias about the Ewoks and realize they're there to help him. So he has, in my opinion, he has the most character growth out of anybody in that entire film. He grows the most.
I agree. And they kind of toned it down because he was a lot worse. There were scenes that they cut out where like he would trip the Ewoks and stuff like that, and because he was devious. So I'm glad
wow.
I'm glad they made it less of a brat, but he was a brat. And me being a method actor, I got into it a little bit too much, probably. But that's okay. The character I 100% agree with you. He had the most growth as a character, and it was a shame to see him die in the second one.
Yeah,
I know.
Those are the breaks, guys. That's just he wanted to go in a different direction on the second one, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So, Jesse, let's transition that now into what we're going to talk about the second one. So, before we kind of jump into that transition from caravan to battle, is there anything that maybe you experienced, or maybe a particular day of shooting, or anything that you would consider maybe that was a frustrating day for you, or something you'd prefer not to do again? Did anything like that ever happen on the set?
No, I don't. Nothing like that kind of occurred on this movie. I mean, there was times when I got sick, and maybe when I got sick and I had to go get a shot, maybe that day was a little frustrating because I wasn't feeling well. But
Sure.
I mean, I'm doing a spin-off Star Wars movie, so there's definitely no way there's anything that I would have had something like that. I mean,
yeah, no,
I'm trying
I'm
to
with
think
you.
Because I'm trying to understand your question, but I'm trying nothing offhand.
Just didn't
because even
know.
I mean the Chukatron dying was a tough scene. That was a tough scene. I read and I rehearsed it. We rehearsed that. Kevin Thompson, who is he was nice enough to rehearse it with me, so we were rehearsing it the night before in his hotel room. And Kevin was nice enough to have me go up there and give me pointers, even though he was Chukatron dying. He's a really great actor, Kevin, too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a tough scene. And I heard that it made Amanda Lucas cry.
It made me cry. I'm gonna admit it.
Yeah,
I cried.
Yeah.
My daughter also
because of
cried.
that, George. Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
and because of it, George said that no Ewok will ever die on film again. He promised her.
Okay.
So that's why you don't see any Ewok die in. So
that actually
instead,
makes
we die.
Yeah, right.
People die. It's okay.
That just poetic? He doesn't want to kill any Ewoks, so let's just kill off Sindel's entire family. Then we'll still kill somebody in this movie, just not any Ewoks. So that was a little rough.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
I'm not going to lie. I mean, that was a tough scene to watch as a kid. My daughter's 9, and we have to fast forward through that scene because it's very sad for her, because she understands the relationship that formed and that they appreciated each other. There was a mutual respect there, and he died to save the family, obviously. So the noble sacrifice, all of that. So we just have to skip over those 2 or 3 minutes that scene happens because it still upsets her. But what's more upsetting is the whole family getting killed in the second film. And
yes.
Now, Jesse was actually first timer. Jesse was born in 1997, so he never saw any of these movies. Okay, I grew up. Yes. I was born in 81, so I grew up watching these movies. I've seen them 100 times. So Jesse got to have the first timer experience as an adult, which I thought was really good. So Jesse, before we switch over to battle, any final thoughts or anything?
Right.
I guess one final
Nothing.
thought.
I mean, the caravan.
Hold on, Jesse.
No, you're good.
No, go ahead. I want to interrupt. Go ahead. Okay.
All I was going to ask is, what was it like working with George Lucas? Like, I need to ask that question because I know some people have asked me to ask that question. I mean, it must have felt so magical. It must have felt just like, I can't believe he's directing me. Like you said, he was directing you in that one scene. So what was it like?
George Lucas is a technical wizard. He's a genius when it comes to how to set up a shot. Mm-hmm. I've never seen I've never worked with a director that set up a shot that quickly. He really commands his crew. He's moving 1,000,000 miles an hour when he's on set. Even when he visits, suddenly there's a lot more activity and everybody's moving because of boxes, of course.
Right.
But he really knows how to set up the shot. He knows what he wants. He knows the angle. He's editing it. I could tell, because I have a little bit of experience behind the scenes now myself. I could tell he was editing in his head when he was doing it.
Okay.
I have a lot of respect for the man because the genius that he is with that. That being said, it was easier working with John Cordy because he's an actor's director. And an actor's director is a director that knows something about acting, and they could help an actor if they need to get him to reach a certain emotion or whatever in a scene. But again, other than that, it was a privilege being directed by George. Yeah. He's one of the fastest. He knows what he's doing. And he really does. I mean, it's just amazing. His knowledge, and of course, we saw that all on screen. With the Star Wars and stuff he directed, we saw it a lot in prequels. He doesn't get enough credit for the prequels. If you really go back and watch those prequels again, where George has an issue is in certain type of storytelling elements when it comes to like Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill and Han Solo would say, George, you could write this stuff, but you can't say it because he's such a genius. Do you hold that against George Lucas? No, he's good wherever he's at. And because of him, we have a lot of what we have. And if you go back, when I watch those prequels, I don't have problems with them. I think they're some of the best things I've ever seen made. I do have some issues with some of the acting and some of the dialogue. Yeah. And that might have been a reflection of him growing too big. And I know that Marcia Lucas had a lot to do with the reason why the original trilogy was the way it was. Yeah. Because Marcia Lucas would always she could talk to George and say to George, George, look, you got to have more heart. So people could relate. You got to put this here, this there. And she was an Academy Award winning editor, Marcia Lucas. And I think The Mandalorian has a lot more of that now. It has more of that old school feel, and it's got Jon Favreau, who is a brilliant writer. Yes. And then you got Dave Filoni, the George Lucas element. So that they're the perfect team. I am so excited about The Mandalorian. I'm excited about the nine shows that they're preparing too, that they're producing. Oh yeah, I know. Because of that, they're the perfect team.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you, and I think Mandalorian is a great example of you can still do old Star Wars today.
Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah. And it's the element. It's the element. You got two guys there that are not only fans, but you got one that's the George Lucas's Padawan, and the other one that's great at storytelling. That's why they're the perfect team. Those two.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So speaking of storytelling, so when we get to Battle for Endor, we know that the family is completely killed off. We don't kill any Ewoks. And actually, Jesse and I were talking when we were doing the prep session. We wanted to figure out why this happened. We didn't know if it was just some writer someone gave too much to or whatever. But what did we find, Jesse, when we started looking into it? Who's at fault for this?
They said for some reason that the weekend before, like, he was to pitch the story for the next movie, they said George Lucas had watched Heidi with his daughters, and he kind of got that kind of element of this girl that goes off, finds a hermit and stuff like that. And I read that somewhere. I wasn't sure if that was true or not, or where that came from, but I thought I asked just to see what you've probably heard.
Well, that story I can confirm that story is accurate. I don't know about the timing of when whether it was the weekend before, but it was because him and his daughter were watching Heidi. So that part of it is true.
Wow. Yeah.
I know that I spoke at the week when I first came to the set, they felt the need to sit me down and explain that to me. And that was kind of how it went, because they said they had other ideas. The Lee brothers wrote it with George. George wrote the storyline, and they had a different idea with the family. And George said no, and he explained what he wanted, and that was make her an orphan and then bring in this other character. So that's how that happened, and it's
brutal.
George is going to do what George wants to do.
Yeah,
and he got a lot of flack because of that. You go back and look at reviews. He said he got a lot. That was probably the first not the first, but the first big negative backlash for concerning Star Wars, other than the fact that some people don't like Ewoks either. But and they don't like Ewoks. But,
so
I was in disbelief when
that was and he got. I mean, the reviews were terrible.
Now, Jesse. Oh, sorry. I think there's still a delay, Eric. I apologize. We're not trying to talk over you. Yeah. So Jesse was saying because he was brand new to it. He had never seen it before. Now me, I got all my crying out as a kid, especially the first time I saw it. When the dad Jeremith passes away and he's giving that speech to Sindel about the bird that got knocked out of the nest and she got to fly, and I'm just like, waterworks totally. So Jesse here as a grown adult got to watch it, and I think it hit him in the feels too, didn't it, Jesse?
It did. I was like, wait, is everybody dead? And I'm like, wait, they didn't show it on screen. Maybe they're still alive. So there's this party that was pulling through like, all right, Mace is going to come out of nowhere. Mace is going to save the day. Mace is going to be here. And I'm just like, oh my God. So I had like a weird delay cry when I was watching it. I was having wait, he's still here. And then when the credits rolled, I was like, what? Oh.
Yeah, because he could have been hurt. He could have been hurt or injured because you never see him. You just see the hut blow up.
Right.
But what if the life monitor got
right? Exactly.
Maybe it blew up part of meth.
Absolutely. And I think that's one thing that I always kind of wished as a kid, because it's like, again, we talked about all that growth and character development in the first film, and I feel like they just kind of flushed it away. I mean, I know George gets what he wants, but it's like, man, you built up this great character and then you just blew him up in 5 minutes.
Yeah. And he had
I mean, and no disrespect, he did a tremendous job in the movie, carrying the whole movie. She did a great job. I have a lot of respect for what Aubrey did in this. But you kill your audience, when there's not a lot of 5-year-olds that want to watch movies. The Star Wars is, if you want to attract an adult, you got to have adults and teenagers in it, not just a 4 or 5-year-old.
Sure.
So. Yeah.
Totally agree. So then we bring in Wilford Brimley. He's the crazy old hermit that lives in the woods, and he's been stranded there for 30 or 40 years looking for his friend. He's got nowhere to go. He's living with Tink, who is one of the best characters in Star Wars, in my opinion. I love that character. And we bring Sindel, Wicket, and Noah together. So how, obviously you didn't have any scenes with Wilford Brimley, but did you ever meet him on set? Or did you guys talk or anything like that?
Oh yeah. Wilford actually, I think on my Facebook page there's pictures of us together. Wilford was great. He was always nice to the kids. I even went. He invited me up to visit him and say hi to him in his hotel room, and I got to take pictures with him. I got to meet him.
Wow,
nice guy. Only thing to say about him, although he probably will never work for Lucasfilm again. Well, he can't now. He passed away. But after the Battle for Endor, with all that went on that set, he's a tough cowboy. Let's put it that way. And he don't take.
Wow.
So there were a lot of things.
So there were some issues on the set with Battle for Endor, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Well, Wilford would not. He quit the film in the middle of production.
Whoa!
And he said he wasn't going to work with the Wheat brothers. He called them the Idiot Brothers because he didn't like. Because at the time, Teak was supposed to be like much smaller.
Okay.
And Teak was not going to be like. Teak was supposed to be a puppet figure that moved real fast. And it was supposed to be done by puppeteers, the Jim Henson and stuff. So there's somewhere around there. There's probably a Teak that's smaller, by the way.
That would be the gem right there to hold on.
That's some new.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was upset because he didn't want to work with. He called him I don't want to work with a Muppet, so he was upset about that, and he quit. And the only way they talked him into finishing the role was to.
Oh, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, he's back. We got him.
So the only way they were able to finish the movie was they had to have another crew, another whole unit. Instead of they had a second unit that was really a first unit.
Oh, wow.
For him only. And Joe Johnston talked him into coming back. So Joe Johnston directed all the scenes with Wilford Brimley.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's actually very interesting. I always find it fascinating on how because human beings are different. Every single person is different from every other person, and it's always interesting to see how people navigate being in those situations. And I find it fascinating with stories like this from the set, because this is stuff you don't know. This is stuff you never see, never hear. I mean, I could listen to this all day. I love Wilford Brimley's kind of filmography and what he's done. But I'm kind of sad that, that there were issues there, but I understand different actors and different artists, look at themselves in situations differently. I'm just glad they got to finish the movie,
Yeah.
I like the Battle for Endor. It reminded me more. It was closer to the Jedi movie than Caravan of Courage. It had a lot more action. It was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited, even though I was dying. I wanted to be the biggest marauders out as I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
And I like those characters. I forget what the name of their species is. I know it starts with an S. I forget how to pronounce it, though.
The Syrian Marauders or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, something.
And this kind of begs the question of where they fit into with canon, which you and I have talked about before. Do the Ewok movies, are they canon with the other Star Wars films?
Well, I mean, George Lucas made the biggest statement about whether they're canon or not when he released them on DVD. If you go back and look at the DVD releases of them, it says Star Wars Ewok Adventures.
It does. And I own that set as well as them digitally on Amazon, so I've got both of them.
But of course, there's a lot of debate about it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot say they're part of their expanded universe. Of course, we know Disney got rid of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
which that brings up your petition that you have going on.
Yeah.
Basically, from what I've read, you said you will, once you make, how many signatures was it again that you need?
5,000. And I'm close.
Once you get, how close are we?
What's the count? Yeah, let's find out. What's the count?
Let me find out here. Hold on.
Yeah, because I was very interested, because you said that you would put on the flight suit again and deliver it, and I'm like all for that.
I have a orange flight suit.
Nice.
Do you have the vest as well?
I don't. I have one that looks similar to it, but it's not enough like it, in my opinion.
Close enough, though, right? As long as it works.
Close enough, because I did a song where I appear as Mace again. So that's available as well. It's called "Dare to Dream in a Galaxy Far, Far Away."
Dare to Dream in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. Everybody watching, check that out right now. And as soon as we kind of wrap up this conversation, we're going to move into what you're doing now and with your podcast and your music and all that. So we'll be able to make sure everybody checks out all this stuff, Eric.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm trying to find, here it is.
And Nicole Cortez gave us a comment. She said, "Where do I go to sign?" So she's ready to sign right now, Eric.
Yes.
So it's on change.org. And if you go to change.org, type in Caravan of Courage, it'll probably come up. But it's the headline is Disney and Lucasfilm, we want Caravan of Courage. Ewoks 2, the Droids and Ewoks cartoons, which I'm including an ad as well on Disney Plus.
I totally agree. The whole catalog should be on there. There's no reason why it shouldn't be.
And
right now it's still counting, but we're getting close to 4,100 signatures so far.
Awesome. Almost there.
Yep.
I actually did find it. So right now I'm going to put it in our comment section for everybody to go check out. So it shall appear there in a few moments.
Yep.
So everybody go and check that out and get that thing signed right now.
Absolutely. There it is. We got the link in the comments section. Perfect. And I do agree with you, Eric, on Battle for Endor. It's rough because I hate seeing the family killed off. But there is something special there by the end of the film that's discovered, and all the character redemptions and things like that. Plus, Noah gets to fight the Lord Tarek, which I can't believe no one's done a cosplay of at a convention yet.
I know. I agree. We just did a reunion in Florida right before the pandemic happened, and and Dame Sean Phillips was there, who was in Dune, who was in Battle for Endor. Carl Strickton was there, who played Tarek, and Nikki Patello was there, who played Teak, and we had this huge reunion.
Yeah, awesome. That's fantastic. How was that reunion? Was it good kind of being reunited with everybody and talking? Did any news stories get shared or anything crazy happen? Or was it just everybody kicking back, having fun?
Well, I mean, I hadn't heard this story, or I didn't remember it. I might have heard it, but I didn't remember it. But Nikki shared the story where she, because she was, when they put those costumes on, even her costume as well as the Ewok costumes, they fog up and they can't see out of their eyes after about 2 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And she was talking about somehow she tripped on a rock and rolled down the hill, and she accidentally landed in a creek. So at the time, the water was coming up into her mask, and she was almost drowned.
Oh, geez.
She had to be saved by one of the Marauders. The Marauders ran.
Wow. I mean, it's not funny that happened, but it's just, you could imagine being on the set and you see Teak rolling down the hill, and here comes Marauder number 10 running down after her to try to get her.
She said normally you would freak out because they ripped her mask off because they had water in it, and they had their costumes on. So she said, if I wasn't doing a Star Wars movie, can you imagine?
Right.
Big Marauder face, like looking at you to make sure you're okay.
Oh, that would scare. Oh,
right,
man.
Like, where am I? Now, those Marauders, I love those guys, and I really wish they could work them in somewhere in the on-film or television with Star Wars universe again, because I want to know how they got to Endor, how, if they are in canon, how on Earth they or Noah didn't realize there was a whole galactic battle going on above. Like, right. There's all these questions, right? And they're never going to be answered, but they're really fun to speculate on. Yeah. But I would love to see these Marauders show up somewhere else, even if they show up in the Mandalorian somewhere. That would just be fantastic.
That'd be great. And they were all like basketball players. I think they were on like the Sacramento Kings or something like that. They're all basketball. Really?
Yeah.
And except for Carl Strickton, who is not a basketball player. He may be. And Johnny Weissmiller Jr. played one of the guys at the card table.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So his son, John, the old Tarzan, his son's real tall, Junior, and he was in there too. So that was fun to meet him.
Absolutely, that's really cool. I did not know that in terms of who were playing the different Marauders. I love those guys because they just remind you of drunk pirates. They're just drunk pirates in the Star Wars universe. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, they even live in a castle lit by torches, so it was just absolutely perfect.
That's Carl Strickton's real voice, by the way, doing that language.
Really?
Oh, okay.
They didn't dub it. He actually did the voice of King Tarek, and that's a language too. They created a language. The Marauders have their own language.
Ah,
I lost you again. Sorry, guys.
Oh, you're good.
No, you're okay. You're right.
The Ewoks have a language too, because. And in Jedi, they didn't have a language, but for Caravan of Courage, they actually created a language that's like a cross between like a couple, like I think it's a cross between, I think that was told like the Filipino, Vietnamese, and a couple other Asian languages with some other Latin roots, but it's like a cross between, but it's a real language, by the way.
Wow. That's actually very cool. When I watched both films yesterday, my wife likes to watch television and movies and stuff with closed caption on. Drives me nuts, but I've learned to deal with it because it's more annoying to keep turning it off than just leaving it off. So when I watched them, they actually captioned probably 95% of the Ewok words that they use.
Wow.
And you can pick up a lot on it, like the words, the names of the characters, and how they like flow when you speak them. So what you're saying, how it was this combination of all these languages, it makes a lot of sense when you see them spelled out on the screen, you hear them used. So that's actually very, very cool. I did not know that they also made a language for the Marauders. That's really cool too.
Yeah, no, he was sharing that. I didn't know that either until that convention last year.
Wow.
Something new. 34 years later, I'm learning.
Exactly. It's always something. There's always something to learn. There's always something to talk about. And I mean, that's what I really love learning about. And like I said, I really want to see these guys show up again. Someone put them in Mandalorian, please.
Yeah.
Or even whatever, go to Endor, go to a different planet, have these guys there. Let's see them again.
Yeah, no, they could definitely do it. I mean, they'd be great. And they've stolen some stuff from the Ewok movies for the Mandalorian.
Really? Like what?
Well, what's that? The blurgs are from the Ewok movies. On the Quill is writing with the Mandalorian. He teaches.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It took me a second. I had to think about it, but you're absolutely right. How did I not, Jesse? How did we miss this?
I saw it now. I remember it now, but I missed that.
Yeah.
I really hope that what would be best? They have a Mandalorian episode, and we realize Mace lived.
That'd be even better.
Like, Mace is just sitting in the back, and he's just telling tales of his time on Endor.
He did survive, and he stayed there with Wicket for how many?
Love this.
Mace and Wicket have like a bromance going on, like a Han and Chewbacca thing, but it's Mace and Wicket.
That'd be cool.
That would be awesome. That would be great.
John Favreau needs to make that happen right now, please.
Let's write him some letters, Jesse. Maybe he'll read them. So, Eric, it's been great talking with you. And while we wind down here, because I could literally talk to you for hours.
Sure.
Want to spend some time talking about what you've been working on now after all this crazy stuff. So you've been doing some music. You've got an excellent podcast. You do some special events at Galaxy's Edge at Disney World. So tell us about what you're doing now and those types of things.
Well, I've had this passion for music my entire life, being a composer and writing music. And around 2010, I decided I just got to do it. I got to come out with albums. So I write, my music is electronic. It's very similar to there was a band in the 80s called Tangerine Dream. I don't know if you know who they are. Jean-Michel Jarre, Vangelis is another one and my music's all that style. So I started writing albums, and a lot of the stuff that I've done is a lot of times I'll write a song that's based on my experiences in Star Wars. Like on my first album, I have a song that's called Return to Endor. And the story about Return to Endor is about a scene that was actually cut out of Caravan of Courage. It's a scene where Mace and Sindel and Wicket are watching Logray perform this ancient Ewok ceremony where they're summoning the spirits of old Ewoks back.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Scene that happened, and we shot it, but it never made the movie. The way you could tell is there's a picture that they use every once in a while that has, which was taken when we were actually watching the scene. It's a picture that has Mace, Sindel, and Wicket, where you could tell we're watching something. That's from that scene.
Okay.
That was that song, and I think that to me that could be Logray summoning. If Mace did die, maybe he's summoning Mace's spirit.
Oh, there we go.
There it is.
Here we go.
So that's a kind of a cool song. But the best description people have of my music is it's very atmospheric, it's very movie-esque type. If you listen to it and just want to chill out and forget about this world and get away, listen to my music. And that first album that had Return to Endor on it, it's called Tangier Dream. And a lot of my music, I'll dream it, and then I wake up. Sometimes I go in and do it right then and there. Sometimes I'll hum it into my tape recorder. It depends on how lazy I am that night when God sends me melodies. And recently, since I just mentioned it, I'm working on my first album, which is not just instrumental. It has a singer singing on every track.
Nice.
The first song is called Dare to Dream in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. That single is released. You can get it on iTunes. You could hear it on Spotify. It's everywhere. It's on YouTube. And other than that, I've done 3 other albums. My last instrumental album, I was nominated for a Grammy, which I was
nice.
That was from Brand New Day is the name of that album. And I'm working sometime in the next few months. I'm going to have a new album released, which I have a singer singing. His name is ACM, which stands for Alpha Centauri Man, and he kind of looks similar to Daft Punk, but with more electronic stuff.
Okay. I do like a lot of different kinds of electronic music, and we will put links to all of your albums up on the page once we finish the interview tonight, so that way all of our followers and our friends and family and everyone who watches the show can take a look at your music as well. Because I always love when people are multi-talented, so you can act, you can do music. You know, when you make yourself more marketable, it just opens yourself up not only to put yourself out there, but to stay passionate about things. Maybe something goes one way, but then you can focus on something else. Maybe they're both moving. You know, it's very versatile. So that's fantastic that you do that.
And I think this could lead to me composing for movies as well.
Yeah,
totally.
And I don't have a problem doing that. I love to compose. If anybody, I just did a gentleman has something called I'm trying to draw on a blank. Sorry, guys. But the opening theme song to it's a show where he's doing movie reviews. Flim Flam and is the name of one of the characters, but he's reviewing shows. If you type in Flim Flam and I composed the music for that show. So
that is awesome. That's really cool, Eric. So how was that experience? Like being able to actually compose for a show and that type of thing. How was that overall experience for you?
That is very different. That's, you're taking something that somebody else is creating. You're trying to add what you see to it. And then, but you also got to learn to listen to the director and the editor and try to see where they were going with it as well. So it's more of a collaboration, that type of process. And that's always fun, to collaborate with people and see, what they were trying to get out of the scene, and see discussions with directors and editors and stuff like that, mainly directors, to see where they wanted to go. So that's a little different than doing it on your own. And I'm all for that. I'm all about collaboration. So I have no problem with that. And I don't mind doing that. I mean, I like doing it so much that I haven't released it yet, but I actually did my own version of the Mandalorian theme.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that when you release it.
So yeah, it's a little bit different. So
no, I'm excited to listen to it, honestly. And like you, I like that collaborativeness. I like adding to work to make it better, make it unique, or total originality, whatever it is. I mean, music is fantastic. And especially with you doing a lot of electronic music now, adding vocals in, I prefer the electronic style music that is more atmospheric. It's more ambient. It's got vocals in it. It's really good, but maybe it's got a decent breakdown. Maybe there's some fast parts, slow parts. I mean, electronic music has like a million different genres to it.
Description of there's this one piece I wrote on Brand New Day, and it was a tribute song. It's called For Edgar, and that song is a good example. It actually changes tempo in the middle of it. That For Edgar song is my tribute to that guy who started Tangerine Dream. But what's great about For Edgar is it starts off analog and I'm playing the piano, and then it later it's like a history lesson of music and instruments.
Ooh.
At that one point, I'm even using an iPad app in the song. Then right after it slows down, it goes back to the old me playing the piano, and it's all over the place. So For Edgar is one of those type of songs that really takes you in different directions.
I'll be listening to that here in just a few minutes because you definitely got my interest there. This is really awesome, Eric. I'll be honest, I knew you did a little bit with music, but I didn't know that you were as involved as you are to this degree. So this is fantastic, kind of learning this piece of you as well. And like I said, we're going to put all the links to your albums up on our page once the show is done, so all of our viewers can listen as well. Got about 5 minutes or so before we need to wrap up. So talk to us about your podcast, All for Sci-Fi, and some of the cool stuff that you guys do on that podcast. It's a very interactive podcast. It's and in that, like, obviously we do a podcast, you do a podcast, and you understand that when you're marketing yourself and your show, it's how do you differentiate yourself between the competition? You, sir, are doing something very unique that a lot of people aren't doing. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, I have a sidekick. So I have Captain Rickster. And it's so the interaction between the two of us will, if you want to watch our show All for Sci-Fi, when we do our live webcast, you'll probably laugh a lot, joking with each other. And when we make mistakes, we use that, and it creates a lot of comedy. That makes us different than the other podcast. The interaction between myself and Captain Rickster, he's into comic books, I'm into sci-fi. We meet somewhere in the middle. And the reason why I wanted to create All for Sci-Fi is because I wanted to have something that brought all sci-fi together. Not just Star Wars, not just Star Trek, not just because I'm a big geek. I'm a sci-fi fan.
Oh, we are too.
I like Star Trek too. I like Star Wars. I like all the different stuff. I was watching Sense8 the other day. So it's all of that. So we're doing reviews of everything that's out, anything sci-fi. We also give away gifts. We used to do trivia when we would go to the theme parks like Galaxy's Edge or Disneyland. But now it's just, you got to pay attention to the show. And at the end, we'll bring up a question about something we talked about. If you get it right, you can win a prize. We're trying to give away 52 gifts this year. We can't wait till we get back to Galaxy's Edge. That's the other thing we do. When Disneyland and Galaxy's Edge open, we'll be there every week. Podcast.
Nice.
That's really cool. And speaking of giveaways, you just recently had some really cool merch. They made some enamel mace pins that really looked incredible. I'm not a pin collector. I know there are thousands, millions of people who collect pins, especially Disney. I would buy that pin. It looked fantastic. That is great. Oh, looks like we got a comment from Nicole here.
Hi, Nicole.
Yeah. She looks like she'll get a pin as well.
So yeah, very, very cool that you've got some merch. I really like seeing that. I know when you either go to conventions or you go to comic shops or merch shops or what have you, you usually have a lot of your stuff there that you can share with people. But then there's also always surprises and things you're working on. And I absolutely love those mace pens. I thought those were really awesome.
The artist who did that did a great job. I'm very happy with the way they came out.
Yeah.
We ordered 100 of them. There are some left still.
Oh,
there you go.
So if you guys reach out to me, if you guys still want it, there is something on the horizon which is going to freak everybody out. And it's going to be a vintage Mace Towani figure.
Yes.
Yes. There we go.
And we're actually working on it with a guy who worked at Kenner back in the day when they did all their vintage stuff for Star Wars. So
very cool.
Doing the sculpt with another guy named John Pryor who did one last year. They did the face, but this time John and this guy from Kenner, I think he goes by Dollar Slice is his name, but he's in the group where they have a thing called Designer Con where they do mashups with figures. Like they might have something that looks like Boba Fett and Rocky.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Oh yeah.
He's that crowd, but Dollar Slice bootlegs, and he's really great. And he's putting it together with the guy who actually worked at Kenner. And we were talking the other day. We're gonna make sure all the accessories there, like Mace's axe, his blaster.
Oh, I love
nice.
And I was sending him pictures. And we're going to try to make the price point as affordable as we can. It's going to be a limited run. Who knows if we get enough of them out there, maybe, I don't know. I mean, we could dream, but I mean, people want the Ewok movie action figure. So
yes,
get on it, Disney.
Absolutely.
Give it to them.
I'll buy one. You already sold me on it. I'll definitely buy one, especially since this is going to be vintage. Because growing up, I pretty much had the whole Return of the Jedi toy run. My parents bought it for me Christmas 1985, and I broke everything because I was very hard on my toys as a kid. And so I would love to have that kind of vintage look and actually have a Mace figure because I never had that growing up. So anytime we played the Ewok movies, it was just me and my brother playing make-believe. I always wanted the figure, so I will absolutely buy one of those, hands down. All right, well, we're about out of time, Jesse, so why don't you go ahead and close us off. We do have a comment from Ryan Francis I'd like to throw up.
Yep. And we agree. We are very happy that Eric could be our guest today.
All right, Jesse, why don't you go ahead and wrap us up for this episode? This has been just so much fun tonight. I've been looking forward to this forever, and it's been a rough couple weeks at work, so this was just great. Thank you for being so awesome, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Real quick, I want to thank everybody that tuned in and listened. Nicole, Ryan, Pete as well. Thank you so much for those that didn't comment. Thank you. Make sure you check us out. Always on at the Grown Ups Table Facebook. We are live every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. And then you can catch our reruns on YouTube. All new episodes go onto our YouTube page the very next day. So if you want to recap on this episode, that's where you go. Check us out tomorrow on YouTube. Before we go, again, 1,000 times, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Eric. This was an absolute pleasure to have you on.
It was fun going back and reminiscing and being on at the grown-ups table. So
definitely.
Well, thank you, Eric.
Well, let's sign off. I want to say thank you everybody for listening, and until next time, I'm Jesse.
And I'm John.
And you've been sitting at the grown-ups table. Thank you, and have a wonderful night, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.